Hi, Daniel Major, CEO of GoviEx Uranium. We have 3 projects in Africa. They're development projects. Primary focus is the Madaouela project in Niger, looking to get that financed by 2023, production by 2025. Zambia project, Mutanga, already permitted, looking to get that one into development a couple of years after Madaouela for production as well. And then we have the exploration play, Falea and Mali.
Hello, hello. How are you?
Awesome. And in Cape Town. What a lovely city.
Gorgeous day out there.
Absolutely gorgeous day.
We brought the weather with us. That's good news.
So most of the time.
you're at Indaba. We're down here for Indaba. There's one-to-one going on as well, but you're focused on the Indaba. What are you hoping to get out of the conference?
I always do Indaba when I come down here. I mean, this is a proper working conference.
Right.
So for me, it's suppliers, it's lenders, it's government. So I've met with my Minister of Mines Niger on Sunday. I'm meeting with the Minister of Mines Zambia tomorrow morning, doing a whole bunch of lenders, Africa-focused lenders, and then the suppliers looking for bits of kit, services that we require for our projects.
Right. And is this the first time it's been on for a couple of years?
Yep. Ever since the COVID struck, we've not been able to come down here. Obviously, East Africa was very impacted by it. Yeah. Some of the cases coming through. So
this is basically like for North Americans, this is like the PDAC, but for Africa.
Totally.
Right. Okay. So you're obviously, you talked about some of the projects that you're cracking on with. I'm intrigued by the types of conversations that happen here about Africa for African projects, and the way that you, as a kind of, you're not local.
I lived here for 12 years. Give me a
But how are they looking at all of this foreign direct investment? Are they up for more?
Oh, God, yeah.
Because South America, we've got this whole nationalization type issues going on, socialist conversations going. What's Africa?
Yeah, you've got competing issues here. What you have on the one side, the resource curse, and the dread that that's going to continue to occur. On the other side, there's a complete pragmatism that the only people who are really going to put money in are foreign companies, and people are comfortable with that.
Right.
So what you're seeing in most of the mining codes are, and you've seen where they've gone. I mean, look at Zambia's new approach now. I mean, the president of Zambia was the opening speech yesterday in Indaba, and he was all about, we're growing, First Quantum, putting more money in. We want to extend the railway line all the way down into South Africa, expand that southern African belt that we've got here. In Niger, we're currently getting a new mining code come through. It's pretty much the same as the old one. But interestingly, it's ESG driven. Human rights code is in it. Commitment to the environment, commitment to, and that's the other bit that's sitting here, which has been pushed through in all the African nations for a long time, is local procurement, local recruitment. Okay. But that's what it's about. It's, okay, you want to put your money in? We're happy with that. Develop projects. Yes, you have to, because it's very hard for African groups to do that. But help us develop our communities, help us develop training, help us develop the infrastructure with it, and we'll share the benefits. These are African resources that share the benefits. Because
ESG it's a kind of we've seen both sides of the argument. People just don't. Some people don't like the phrase. They think it's just a badging exercise. Others are going, well, it's essential. Funds demand it. Lenders demand it. It's real. I mean, what you're saying is it is a very big part, even here in Africa. Because I think it's a perception, and people go, they just want money. No. They just want employment, just want the taxes. They don't really care about that kind of thing.
In reality, and I sit in the middle of those two camps of where it is, mines have always had to run with health and safety. You bring people into work every day, you want to send them home. You impact the environment no matter what you do. You want to limit that impact on the environment. But the other thing about it is if you do it properly, it actually benefits your business operationally. If people are operating in a safe way, they're operating, and it's a mindset, because if you do ESG properly, it's a circular review, plan, do it again, action, and keep going around in circles. And if you do that in any business, even in your own business, you think about what you're going to do. How do I improve for the future? React it, respond to it a year later, see if it's still working, and go around. Right. And that's actually what ESG is all about. It's not that difficult, and we've been doing it for donkeys. It's just been rebranded.
What are the bits that you don't like about it when you say you sit in the middle of that argument?
On the one hand, I don't think it is a requirement, but I don't think it's something that naturally comes to our business.
Right.
Is it a rebranding? No, because actually we've all been doing it.
Right.
And I was actually at a dinner with lawyers yesterday, but most of the people at my table were guys in various parts of the African mining industry. And this was an issue we were chatting about, and we're just saying, exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
It's part of what we do as a mining industry, and we have done for an exceedingly long time. But where you're seeing it kind of really coming in and is actually the non-mining area that's kind of using it. The mining guys have been doing it for years.
Right.
You don't send people into dangerous environments without looking after them.
So you feel like it's just a narrative. Don't worry, we haven't added any costs. It's integral to the way that we operate our business, and if anything, it's probably beneficial to our business.
Oh, well, look, if you were borrowing money from a bank, you had to follow IFC standards. IFC standards is ESG.
Right.
IFC standards have been there for ages.
Right.
So if you were following those, you were doing ESG anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm sure there'll be lots of ESG consultants making a lot of money.
I think that's the bigger issue. There's a lot of people who suddenly become experts on ESG. Want to charge you lots of money for it.
Right. Well, let's talk business. About what you're up to. Obviously, you've had a great 18 months. Uranium market has come back. Well, certainly since August last year, since Split came along, moved the spot price along. There's still chat of contracting and term sheets, but not quite at the volume that people are hoping for. Uranium market has come off recently, but for you, it's kind of we got to move things forward. Yeah. So, what's happening in Niger at the moment?
Well, before we do that, I've just hit that market point.
Yeah,
I put a little tweet out the other day. I don't like to tweet because I'm a generation that isn't kind of that way inclined.
What's this Twitter about?
Yes, isn't that the birds in the morning? Yeah. But it was interesting because I was at the WNFM. Got to remember all these. There's the WNFC. That's there's a whole bunch of these things, and they all sound like radio shows.
Yes.
But it was interesting because the whole conversation was Russia and diversity of supply. Where are we going to get our material from? But it was also very clear that the utilities are worrying about the now. Before in November, it was about the future.
Yeah.
Now it's about the now. Where am I going to get my EUP from?
Right, which not a lot left. Right.
Urenco is going. Well, all those guys who used to buy from Russia are now knocking on our door saying, "We don't want to talk to those guys in Russia. Can we get EUP from them?" And they were like, "Well, we only have this much UF6 left.
Yeah.
And the only way to make more is to overfeed it.
Yeah.
But then it won't last as long. So we're going to run out really quickly if we do that."
Yep.
And then they turn to their friends at Convidine and go, "Can you start up, please?" It's and they can, "Well, we're starting up as fast as we can. It will only come." So I think what you've seen in the last month is it's not a lack of focus on the uranium market. It's just the focus has gone up the pipeline for a while.
Yeah.
So guys are looking at, and so you actually seen the conversion margins, you've seen the EUP price climb, and the uranium price came off instead. And it's just because they moved where they were looking for. Yeah. So we saw this in the past, when this cycle took off, it was the SUI price that went first.
Yeah.
And everything else followed it. Yeah. So expect the U308 to come back behind. They are still very concerned about where they get material from. Diversity of supply is very much the conversation. Africa is seen as a really good option. There are, and one point was made at the conference, which is no one's sanctioning Africa in any shape, form, or otherwise. It's there is no country in Africa that supplies uranium that has any issues. So, buy from Africa.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think that's the whole sort of thrust of our exploration conversations with companies this week. Obviously down here in South Africa, but more broadly, which is that North America talks the language of tier one jurisdiction. South America talks the language of tier one jurisdiction for mining. Historically, it has been thus. Okay. Yet the narrative has changed, I think, somewhat in the sense that South America. We've got, electioneering, so maybe saber rattling and electioneering, but Mexico talking about nationalizing lithium, that doesn't do any favors in South America. You've got nervous investors looking in South America. You've got issues in places like Idaho and California over getting licensing and permitting. You've seen the same thing in Canada. It seems there's nowhere safe from the issues.
Well, yeah, it's this the people throw this word geopolitical risk around.
Yeah.
And as I have often at conferences said, just because you can't buy a Starbucks does not make somewhere geopolitically risky.
Right.
But that's people's perception. Oh gosh, they've got terrorism or whatever, in that area. Therefore, we shouldn't go there. Well, one, if you look at somewhere like Niger, it's a massive country. I mean, it's France and Germany combined into one place.
Yeah.
It is vast. And yes, there are issues on the two borders. But you've got a government who've got a very strong mining code. It's been the original one's around since 2006. The 2000 new one that they're doing now is pretty much the same, but it's bringing the ESG side of it into, and I don't really have any issues with that. We did our mining permit in 4 months.
Did you?
Yeah.
4 months?
Yeah.
Okay.
The environmental permitting was even more fun. We did a full IFC, and rather than taking months to do the review, they did their initial review, and then they organised a town hall meeting in Agadez, and everybody who's interested turns up at the and they do a page turn for 5 days.
Right.
Went through this document, page by page, reviewed it.
Yeah.
I occasionally got phone calls from my team saying they'd like to change this. Can you change that?
Yeah.
Finished it, closed the book. A week later, signed it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, and that's not a case. I want to come back to the point. That's not a case of, do you know what? Well, we'll just.
They weren't hiding. No, there was a full-on town hall.
Right.
Every single person who had an opinion on that was allowed to turn up to that event in an open forum and have a conversation.
So this really is a case of, each country has its own peculiarities and processes. So there'll be, Niger, you talked about one, you can move through the licensing process relatively quickly compared to, say, Canada or North America, right? Yeah. But you'll have things where it's a little bit slower and takes a little bit longer. So if you're an investor looking in, you just need to understand the process and the timeframes involved.
Yeah.
So, but do you think there's more of a level playing field now for investors in terms of where they invest?
Look, there are some places in Africa that remain awkward. I mean, the DRC at the moment is clearly one of those areas that's the most difficult. But, you look at permitting times in North America. You look at, the NGO impacts, the indigenous issues in Australia. Every time you change government, you suddenly find you're in, you're out, you're in, you're out. They've still effectively got a three mines policy there. Those are geopolitical risks to me, where you get these radical shifts. The other thing to remember about Africa, it's still a resource-driven GDP.
Yeah,
they need resources. Whereas if you look at North America, it's such a small part. It doesn't really matter if you bugger around with it.
Right.
But then you've got this dichotomy on critical metals, which is, we really need these, but we're going to make it really difficult to get them.
So let's take on the macro bit. Sorry, I threatened to go into the projects, which we should be.
I know, we will do.
The macro thing's so fascinating at the moment in terms of, again, for my optionality for me as an investor, right? Where inflation's been the big conversation of the last 6 months, right? And again, you look at, if you kind of broadly say, everything's gone up 7%, well, that's not real, right?
No.
So mining, different aspects are affected differently in different parts of the world.
Yeah.
So employee costs, I suspect in Africa, you're going to be a winner there, right?
Well, and that was an interesting comment from Cameco, who were commenting how labor inflation is starting to bite for them because of the phosphates business.
Right.
Massive insurge of business from people like BHP building big phosphates mines. Suddenly, people have a choice where they go and mine. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in the top end of Niger and Ala and Aga Khan, the next business off the ranks is GoviEx.
Right. Okay.
Or you can head south 150 kilometers to our friends at Global Atomic.
Right.
But, that's a choice that you can then make. But that's a big choice. You now have to move towns, everything, to be able to do it.
Right. Okay. So for you as part of, because you're going through the study phases at the moment, right? So inflation for you is what it was.
Labour's 20% of our operating cost.
Okay.
So you take that out, it hasn't inflated at all. In fact, the numbers we used in the past, we realized actually we were putting in too high a number, and we did a full study.
Okay.
The other thing, and the point I make is, inflation's out there. I mean, look, mechanical equipment, steel prices are up, whatever. You can't do a thing about those. But that's where it comes back to being the management of the company. Particularly my job, I'm an engineer by trade.
Yeah.
So my job is to engineer inflation out.
Yeah.
And when I used to work for Rossing, back in my days at Rio Tinto, they always had a most beautiful chart, which was here's the inflation and here's our cost increase. And they used to engineer every year.
Sure.
Big gap was just getting bigger and bigger between the two. So they would engineer out inflation every year to keep their projects under the inflation level.
Right. So again, it's just one of the so the things that you can't control, fuel costs and energy costs more broadly.
But you can engineer your usage.
Right. Okay. Is that a possibility where you are?
Well, for example, we now put solar into the project.
Right.
So it helps bring down my carbon footprint, but brings down the amount of power I'm taking off the grid.
Yeah.
I then can put some diesel backup in, but again, I don't have to use it all because I've got the solar sitting up there.
Right.
Still need the diesel backup, but it's a function of that. Redesign our pit to try and reduce the total tonnage we're going to mine. Right. That effectively reduces the diesel usage as well at the same time. So these are all engineering bits that you can put through. I mean, and yet that's part of the job as being the engineer. It is to try and engineer out inflation. You can't get rid of it all. You just got to get as smart as you can.
So do you think, and I hope people take this in the way it's intended, which is the COVID period, not COVID, the COVID period has actually been put a percentage on it, a benefit to countries in Africa, in the sense that they've got a slight competitive advantage in the sense that inflation is not going to hit the companies like yours as hard. I
don't think COVID is the factor.
I'm just thinking of supply chains and
all those things were already there.
Were there supply chain issues before COVID? They can't have been.
No, it's just carried on.
Right. Okay.
Yes, but your supply issues are more global shipping. What can you bring in and where does it come from?
Yeah.
But, for what we're finding with most of those supplies, in our designs, you try and get everything out of Africa. It's easier. Get the sticky out of South Africa, where we're here. So pull things from this continent, and that makes your project that much easier as well.
Again, I'm sticking with macro. It's
we can talk about the mine in a minute.
It's too fascinating. You're here in Indaba, right?
Yeah.
You're here to meet some of the financing
exactly
companies institutions who will help you at various stages of your development, right? So you'll probably be raising a little bit more money soon. Eventually, you need to be talking about capex requirements and so forth, right? So are the African institutions starting to sort of step up to the plate, as it were? Are they a better option for companies in Africa? Once before you sort of trot off to the usual European banks.
You still do everything around here. There are a lot of Africa development banks now, DFIs. There's a lot of focus for us on those DFIs coming in. We still do with the South African banks. They're here. And the European banks remain natural players into Africa anyway, because it's what they do. It's their bread and butter. But you do now have an increasing spread into the Senegalese banks, the whole range around there as well, which are now, and then, other areas as well. There's a big Saudi boot here, so that MENA approach is coming through as well, Middle East, North Africa. Yeah. And we're sort of trapped between Sub-Sahara and MENA as well. So we can look at both sides of this from a calculation of where we do our financing. And the same applies to offtake for us as well. Yeah. There are no sanctions for Africa to where we ship it. Yeah. I can ship to China. Yeah. I can ship to North America. I can ship to Europe. I can ship to the Saudi states. Russia. I could if anyone would let me, but it's not somewhere I would be going. No. So I do have some moral standards.
I know, but just on that whole thing, I've always sort of seen Africa as these sort of Chinese, shopping baskets. They sort of pop in there. We've seen that in Namibia.
Well, but the one thing that has changed on that is the US sanctions against Chinese nuclear companies. Pretty heavy. So CGN, CNNC. You have to be extremely careful now of how you involve them in your project. You couldn't, for example, give them a 20, 30, 40% stake in the project for an equity.
Well, they could buy you.
Well, they could buy you, but that's a different argument. That's a completely different conversation. But if you were going to try and do, where Paladin is sitting with a 25% stake, where you were sitting with NextGen, that would not be doable now. And actually, if you go to the banks, they have to then, European banks have to then look at what US sanctions issues are. They're going to say, yeah, but you've got a Chinese investor in there with this block. That makes our whole credit control issue way more complex.
But it also says to the Chinese, I know exactly how I need to play this. Right?
Yeah.
Because there is that competitive tension in terms of where all the supply is going to come from. Okay, US, not a big producer. Even if all of the US companies come online, you may get £5 million a year, right?
And it's the US guys that are reaching out to us on the utilities.
Right.
And we're talking, the utilities, very much so. We talk to all of them. They very much see Africa as part of the next play of new projects, and the key is that ability to get going. And we've made the point right in the intro. Madaouela is permitted, Zambia is permitted. These projects, it's all about getting them financed into production, and so that's really where our focus is.
So the admin's taken care of. It's the technical ability to deliver pounds. You've got to deliver them economically, and they just want you to deliver them full stop.
Correct.
Right. Okay. That's kind of interesting because you talk about this kind of the diversification of risk for utilities is very important. A big chunk of the market is now not available to them for the foreseeable future, whether that be E3 or 8, the EUP or etc. You have 6, and then of course there's the enrichment side of this thing is another conversation for another time. It's a mess out there at the moment. So you're saying you're getting a lot more conversations now. Is that because of the state of the market or the fact that you are more significantly advanced project now?
We're advanced. And also they are looking for new places to go for development. I mean, the big three will always tell you that they're the only guys on the block. But that's also an issue for the utilities. They don't want only 3 suppliers.
Of course.
They want diversification of supply out there as well. And, the nice thing for us as well, particularly with Niger, it's a known quantity. The converters have all at some point received Nigerian feed, whether it's Converdine, Cameco, or Comorex. Well, Comorex, obviously, because that's where most of the Arriva stuff went to. But, so they're comfortable with the feed product that's come. It's a record, it's transport route. It's happened since the 70s. So there's no concerns of how you're going to get it out. What are the logistics to achieve it? It's a trodden path and well-trodden path to go forward. So that really helps a project like ourselves when you can go back and go, I don't have any logistics issues, guys. It's well described and well understood. And the shippers get it as well. So it's not when you want to go to the logistics on the shipping guys. They go, oh, we know that route.
You've literally. I always say people, when people get into production initially, it doesn't matter what the amount is. It just shows a route to market. You're talking literally a route to market. Okay, it's done. Not a case of I can get contracts, but I can physically get it to where it needs to be.
And that's important in our industry because it's a difficult product to move.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, can we talk about the projects?
Of course, you can talk about the projects.
Okay, right, Niger. Obviously, you've, Rana have made moves, right? You've got Global Atomic in country, and then you've got the Namibians, a tiny little play in Malawi. That's it, right? So it's rarefied air. For you, you are significantly advanced, but you're going to have to put some new numbers out to market soon. Is that right?
So I'm going up to Joburg after this. Sit down, start kind of working with the team and trying to understand where we are with the numbers. My team's here. So target is still end of the quarter.
Okay.
Put something out by then. This is where I have to put my really engineering hat on and look at everything that we've gone through, all the test work, and figure out, what can we do better? Where can we still fine tune things and get advances? And I'm pretty comfortable at the moment. I mean, they may prove me wrong in the next 2 days, but it very much. And that's the key because our timing is perfect. So if you look at a lot of these US utilities, 2025 is when they need material. Well, I'm kind of estimating at the moment, based on the conversations we're having, that end of Q1. 2023, we should be able to sort the financing out and the offtake. It's all down to that price and being able to get the off-takes at the structures that we need them. 2 years to build. A lot of the design has been to try and simplify the build structure that we're looking for, get rid of long lead items and accelerate things. I mean, that's one of the crucial factors that's out there at the moment. We've still got to go through. Certainly, I was talking to someone from Caterpillar the other day, and, you know, getting kit is becoming difficult. It's not just inflation. It's, okay, inflation and, okay, where am I going to find that part? And that would put us in early 2025 producing uranium. Well, that's going to be one of the fastest projects out there if we can pull it off along that route. And I don't, at the moment, I see no reason why that shouldn't be doable, subject to the final numbers that come out of it and getting that contract. But, you know, we've had utilities indicate that, you know, they get it, that numbers up to $60 at the moment is what they would start to think about going to. So, you know, that would be a really great place to be. Our team in Zambia now have got, we put a press release out about a week ago. Last year, I mean, the issue in Zambia is we've got 5 deposits. It's a hub and spoke heap leaching operation. But the main deposit, Indaba East, about 50% of the mined resource, was indicated. So we did test work last year just to drill it, to see if the geologists would sign off the hole spacing. They tweaked it. So we technically what we had is a square grid, and they've just made it an offset grid. So geostatistically, it works better.
So how much more drilling?
We're doing 15,000 meters of infill drilling. It's a big deposit. I mean,
what do you do for uranium? If given the types of deposits that you've got, what's the sort of spacing?
We're 100 by 50.
Okay, right.
It's a big, bulky deposit. I mean, it's 45 million tons of rock sitting there. So it's an infill. So, but the guys as well with diamond core on that one at the same time. Because we probe, so you need to get the disequilibrium sorted out. So we're going for.
Is all that financed?
Yep, that's all there.
Money's
we're happy.
in-house?
That's in-house for that one. So we're good. So that will bring out some met samples. Those met samples will just be used to confirm the previous met work. It's a heap leach it, so it's pretty straightforward, and some geotech. So this year it's about field work. Next year, a detailed engineering for that one. So we'll go for it. The guys are going to have a look at 2 of the deposits there to see if they can ISR it, because 3 of the deposits are actually above the water table. 2 of them are actually under the water table. We've not looked at it before, so we don't know if the answer fits, but we'll have a look at it.
I mean, it's kind of nice. Well, compared to when we started talking about it 2.5 years ago, you know, it was like, well, what are the options on the table here? We've got these projects which are cash constrained. The whole company's cash constrained. And, you know, do we spin it out to just get some capital to allow us to focus on Niger?
I mean, we've always wanted to keep Zambia because our approach has always been, we're a development company and you need a pipeline.
But there was no certainty around where the next dollar was coming from. So it's like hand to mouth a bit.
Absolutely.
So that's the difference in 2 years for you guys. We can keep all of that. We can finance all of that, and we can run all of that.
So we keep going.
So you keep going.
And then Mali, obviously, is our exploration play, looking at what's underneath it.
What's happening in Mali? What is happening in Mali? Seriously,
that's another completely different conversation. That's a whole new video.
Well, we joked about, you know, coups in Africa. I mean, I'm aware of at least 90. You know, which is it's a sort of transition of government, but a way of transition of government. And I don't mean to make light of it, but generally, it's a fairly passive thing. You know, it's like, you know, it just happens. But Mali, perhaps, I think there's some issues around. I think some of the banks have been told they can't move money in and out of country, and
that's the ECOWAS sanctions. I think the biggest concern for Mali has got nothing to do with the coup per se. It is the wider geopolitics of Russia.
Really? How's that work? Because I thought it was a case of the army not stepping down or
now the French have pulled out and the Wagner group have gone in. So you now have Russia trying to put a stamp into the geopolitics in that region. So that makes it which is juxtapositioned against the US strong positioning in Niger and Senegal on either side.
That'll be interesting. Because it'll probably calm things down in country, but it won't do much for trade. No. I mean, anyone working in Mali at the moment is still fine. I mean, the operations carry on. There's no big concerns for that. For us, we keep on exploring. On this one, I think if we find what we think we're looking for,
it's probably a spin out on that one, and we'll focus on the uranium projects, and that will become something else.
That's
some
clear.
other way, unless you reduce our cost of cash burn for doing that one anyway. And back to a conversation we've had always. I'm a big fan of Africa consolidating. We would like to be the consolidator in Africa if we can. And I think that's the one thing that Africa actually needs. It needs a uranium player of size that can compete out there. I mean, obviously it's going to struggle with the grades of the Athabascas and whatever, but it needs that diversity and that sense of scale that comes with it, because you're sitting with everybody else effectively just one asset, which when it grinds to a halt, that's the end of it. It's gone. And you need some spread out there with a company with a pipeline of projects to keep African material flowing.
Yeah, you kind of forget about places like Gabon. I mean, Iran were in Gabon for decades producing pounds, and there's a lot of uranium out there. But just for people, perhaps the uninitiated, with regards to uranium looking in, which is, you talk about low-grade uranium versus the high-grade stuff in Athabasca. And I try and compare it to low-grade bulk gold projects versus high-grade. I mean, low-grade doesn't necessarily mean it's more expensive or inefficient to mine. It just means it's a different mining process.
It's a different mining process. I mean, look at our two projects in simple terms. I mean, one's got a grade the fifth of the other, but the all-in mining cost is identical.
Right.
One's high capital and low OPEX, one's low OPEX and high CAPEX.
It's an earth-moving exercise.
It's an earth-moving exercise. And, you look at something like Mutanga.
Shallow.
I mean, it's right on surface.
Yeah.
Acid consumptions are less than 10 kg a ton.
Right.
You compare that to Cameco's operations, deep level, massive holes drilling, freezing environment of the rock alone, let about trying to keep the workers warm on the surface while you're operating. That's a massive infrastructure that's required and a massive cost. It benefits from the grade, absolutely. Right. But that still effectively balances itself out.
Right.
Whereas, African projects, much more simple, much more straightforward. Yeah, they're lower grades and good jurisdictional risk.
But production, well, absolutely. And I think that's the kind of big thrust of what, the learning that we've gone on is recognizing that perhaps Africa is as good an investment jurisdiction as anywhere else in the world, quite frankly. There are always exceptions, but there are exceptions elsewhere around the world, but predominantly, yes. But this whole low-grade versus high-grade argument, I think, when you understand, when you're listening to this, you understand, heard it here, the production costs are roughly the same. So the margins will be roughly the same.
Exactly.
It's just a different process that you're going through.
Correct.
Okay. Well, look, why don't we kind of wrap it up there? Thanks for coming in. I think it's been, good luck with your rest of your conversations this week. You're going to go a couple of days with them, right?
Yeah, I got today and tomorrow, and then up to Johannesburg, and then I'm Vancouver for the VRIC.
Okay, fantastic. Well, may see you there, may see you back in London, but either way, well done for the last year.
Absolutely.
Good year for you
Thank
guys.
you. It's been, really good year. And I'm really looking forward to the next year.